So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. Today is Thursday, October the 28th, 2021, and their call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us. And as I always say, press 1 and ask your questions and comments because it makes it your show. Instead of us doing a monologue, we want to be here to support you. So to support you, we need to know what you need support in. So press 1 and let us know that. Give Michael just a moment to get dialed in, and I'll invite you to go to our website, which is whyagain.org. And whether you're familiar with the work or you're new to it or whatever, click the Start Here button in the upper left corner, or you can scroll down and there's a bullseye in the middle of the page. And if you click that, both of those will take you to the same place. And you will find all of our tools. There's chapter 24 of Michael's book and the reality management sheets. There's all kinds of posters and worksheets to all the other workshops, lots and lots of information. And so put it to use in your life. And then this show is here 5 days a week. Dr. Tim's from noon to 1 and Michael's from 1 to 2. And they are here to answer your questions and to support you if you need help going through a worksheet or if you have a question about anything. Ask your question. And I always guarantee people, if you ask a question, it's someone else's question as well. And maybe they're not as brave to push one. So we'd love to hear from you. We'll remind everybody that we have started doing the monthly still point breathing. And so if, there's a couple people that have signed up for the whole year. There's some people who have only signed up for 2, 1, or 3. And that information is also on the website. If you scroll down to events, you'll see the monthly membership information, and it'll give you all the ways that you can join that. And we do that on the second Saturday of every month. So the next time up is going to be on November the 13th. And then we'll follow it up on the next Wednesday, which this time will be Wednesday the 17th. And that is to process whatever went on when we did the breath session and to answer questions and to give more understanding and just to connect with the ones that are participating in the still point breathing. You can join that at any time. So please let us know, though, ahead of time so that we can send you the link to the Zoom information. And also so we can send you a picture of how you need to line up your camera so that we can see. We need to be able to see your chest and your face and to be able to direct you during the breath session, whether you need to bring your breath up more fully into your chest or whether you need to take it down into your stomach to soften your face. We can talk you through different things if we can see you at the right angle and the light is on you so that we can see you. If you're in the dark, we can't see, or if you are too far away from your camera and we can't, see great details. So we send you a picture of exactly how we need you to line your camera up so that we can assist you during the breath work. So if you're interested in participating in that, please give Michael or I a call or a text or email. And my email is Jeanie, JEANIE, @whyagain.org. And if you've got our numbers, and let us hear from you. Let us build a community, and we appreciate you. Welcome, Michael. I was just announcing about the monthly breath workshop.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, if you're ready to breathe, come breathe with us. Second Saturday of November. Golly, a month has gone by so quickly. October's almost over. How amazing is that? In any event, if you're out there, Ellen, I hope you'll push 1. I'd love to hear how you're doing from yesterday's session. I think that was some awesome work you did. That's so deep, such deep awareness of your own structure and that ability. Oh, well, let's say hello then. Speak of angels,
Ellen.
And angels appear. Hey, young lady.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Jeanie. I did want to give you a progress report because I did do some worksheets on canceling those goals that you lined out for me. And so, one of the beautiful things that I've learned in life is that when you really need to know something or understand something, it just pops in. And this, I was telling you that, I had tried to do like past life regression stuff years ago, and I just wasn't didn't seem like I was capable of doing it. But then all of a sudden, in the last few years, I was given these two different glimpses, and I had to assume that they were from a past life because they certainly weren't from a current life, or maybe they were, something from an ancestor. I don't know, but and it was just really the summer of 2020, it was June of 2020 when I was given the vision of myself committing suicide. And what that really helped me to see in relation to everything that was going on with what I was feeling as a child and these feelings that I didn't think I could handle, was that the things that were going on that were triggering those feelings were really triggering feelings that weren't just from those things that were going on. This was coming from this lifetime in which I had committed suicide. And it made sense because about 10 years ago, I for the first time since I shut all that down as a child, I tapped back into those feelings. And I had remembered that it was really, really bad, but until I actually went there as an adult and re-experienced it, I couldn't, it was total obliteration. It was like I could only stay there for a moment because it was just like, and I thought, how did I even...
So intense.
Child. Yeah, so just blacker than the blackest black you can imagine. But now I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to throw in the thought that when we're in that denial phase and we just have no tools, no faculties with which to handle and it really is the thought disorders, the feelings are heavy and traumatic, but what needs to be handled and shifted are the thoughts that create those feelings, because feelings are simply a reflection of a neuropeptide hitting a cell and reflecting off as, here's the quality of the creative process. And without tools, man, that's a load. And we've called, the thing that hides those things from us, we've called the divine forgettery. Put this away, I can't handle this. But then as you're strong enough, you get to start to open it again. And that's just like so awesome that you've lived your life in a way that you've headed back to that where you've acquired the tools and you're ready to handle it. Like, what a gift to your bloodline that is.
Right. Yeah. And I had a big aha, which is exactly what you're saying, last night as I was laying in bed, because I saw that, yes, I did feel like I was going to die if I wasn't going to get help with my feelings, then I had to shut it all down or I was going to die. And I saw the association that my mind made between those feelings and my having committed suicide. And so there's this association between those feelings and death. But then I had the big aha, which is, wait a minute. It wasn't the feelings that led to my suicide. It was my thought that I could no longer live with those feelings led to my suicide.
That's it, exactly.
And so I immediately...
And suicide is resolvable.
Yeah.
It's resolvable. We've had workshops. We were in Hawaii several years ago, and we did a series of workshops at Unity of Diamond Head. It was a week-long series, and we were going to be on several of the other islands, and the church had such a response. They contacted us knowing we were still in Hawaii and said, hey, while you're here, would you come back and do another week of workshops? We don't usually do that. So about 6 weeks later, we did another series at the same Unity of Diamond Head. It was difficult for us because, it was by then it's February, and we had to stay in Hawaii for an extra 2 weeks in February. That was really, instead of coming back to the Northeast. But anyway, that week, the Sunday, we had 3 different people show up that said to us that that when they were there 6 weeks earlier on the Sunday, that they were planning their suicide. And all 3 of them were like, "Oh, I understand. It's gone. I'm so glad I'm alive." Now, they still had work to do. In fact, one of the people, I think, Jeannie, you probably worked with him for about another 2 years, right? And then they didn't kill themselves, because it's those 5 disorders that create such pain and hopelessness that all they have to do is be forgiven, and boom, we're free of it. But if people don't have the tools, and that's why our commitment is, how are we going to make this available to every mind, heart, and being on the planet? Because there's so many things that can just be worked through if people have the tools to do it. Mm-hmm. So congratulations for opening that window a little wider. There's a line in the Course of Miracles that says, "Millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do." And that opening you created is huge. It not only impacts you and your bloodline, but it impacts anyone on the planet with those same issues. You open the energy window a little wider for any and everybody who's got those thought disorders, to clean them up, to bring them to love and heal them.
Yeah. Wow.
So nice work. That's awesome.
Thank you. So my question is this. Once I uncovered that, and I immediately asked the Holy Spirit to remove this thought from my mind, and this association between those really intense feelings and death.
Right.
And so, and something you said yesterday really was so key for me, because I knew that I had repressed all those feelings, right? And I, since I have been doing this work on myself, I've been saying, well, I'm willing to feel those feelings. I'm willing to feel those feelings. But yet there was obviously this part of my mind that was like, no, it's going to lead to your death. You cannot. Yep. And so now that I see that, oh, wow, it wasn't the feelings that killed me. It was my thoughts about the feelings.
Yep.
So now, exactly. Yeah. So what happens now? So now I would assume that part of my mind that was so unwilling to allow those feelings to come forward and be felt, is that now going to allow me to do that? And is there something I can do to...
Well, notice you've been doing it. Notice the lightness in your voice today compared to yesterday. You've moved a giant amount of work. And, if you've listened over the years, one of the things that I'll say on occasion is the skill we're inviting people to develop is the ability to literally reach into their own cells, recapture the neuropeptide. Remember, we've talked about, in the cell biologist laboratory, they've shown us that when you think a thought, the thought produces this molecule, neuropeptide. Neuropeptide circulates around the structure till it finds a cell with a receptor site that matches. It lands on the cell, and when the neuropeptide lands on the cell sends out a warning signal, or the cell sends out a beauty signal. It's like, oh man, that thought feels so good. I just feel so awesome with that. I'm on track today, and that's the cells telling you your creative process is on track. Or if it's a disintegrative neuropeptide, as it's entering the cell sends out, they say, oh my God, don't do that again. No. The cell's telling you the quality of your creative process. We are creators. And what most people do is they buy into the generational patterns, the thought disorders that are already there, and live their lives in a way, a fifth of scotch, never hurt anybody. Of course, I mean, you look at the statistics of what goes on with alcohol, and that it's still an acceptable thing. In fact, it's promoted in our culture, and kids go off to college to learn how to chug beer by the gallon. I mean, it's crazy, but that's our culture, and that's because, and that's promoted, and that's allowed because there's so much pain and trauma that people are carrying around. They want to be anesthetized. They have no tools to process through that stuff. So the skill to develop is the ability to reach back into our own cells, pull the neuropeptide out, literally take that traumatic thought that might be 3 generations old, pull it out of the cell, decode it, know exactly what it is. Oh, this is from, suicidal, homicidal. Oh my God, look at this. And to forgive. And how do you forgive? You recognize that physiology holds these thought disorders. The flip side of the coin, you're looking at heads and tails on a coin. They're the same coin. The flip side of the physiological trauma or disease in a cell is perception based on that content being resonated. Oh, I hate, or I fear, or I whatever. Perception and physiology are flip sides of the same coin. So when there's pained perception, there's a disease process and disease energy moving in my cells. So when that disease energy comes up, I breathe. I recognize that something's driving that perceptual content to be used at this moment. The something is a goal. When I cancel the goal, the perception collapses in on itself. In other words, now I'm right into that disintegrative energy in the cell. And when I stand in willingness and I develop a skill, I'm reaching in, I'm pulling that energy out of the cell, I'm looking it square in the eye and bringing it to the presence of love. I now know what it's about, although knowing what it's about is not a requirement. Cognitive awareness is not a requirement. Processing the energy is. So even if I don't know what that trauma is about, I can let it come forward. I can breathe. I hold to, you look at step 4 in the worksheet. I'm going to tap into conscious, active, present love. And healing happens when something locked in the cell or reflecting as perception is allowed to come forward directly. When there's disintegrative content in the cell and a goal activates it, what happens is whatever my object of attention is, my mind will massage that disease content in my cellular structure into a picture of somebody else. And I'll say, look what you're making me feel. Now, once I recognize that's what perception is, that's what projection is, then I can cancel the goal that's driving that whole process. And now my awareness collapses right back into the very cell where that disease energy is stored. And instead of experiencing it by projecting it into my brain's image of someone else, which means I'm in an indirect relationship with it, by collapsing into it, I come into direct relationship with it. Now, it can be horrifically traumatic, but if I'm at step 5 in the worksheet where I've canceled the goal, love is present, and maybe, I recognize, like you did yesterday, I need some support with this. So I'm bringing other people in my community in to hold the space, and it doesn't matter where we are. Bob down in Australia might be the one who was holding the space so powerfully that gave you just that little extra boost to move through what you moved through yesterday. It's the presence of active love when we bring something directly out of the cell instead of indirectly through projection, bring it out of the cell and expose it to love, and that's where its dissolution takes place. And that's why yesterday I suggested, okay, so there are several variations on a theme. There are several worksheets that you may do around this, and there'll be others that you'll uncover as you do it. Surely something this deep is going to have many tentacles to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I suggested, so look at this goal, look at this goal, look at this goal, and whatever others you uncover, be conscious of them. And each time you cancel the goal, the pained perceptual construct that comes out of the cell collapses back into the cell. And when I bring love to what's in the cell and the content that's there directly, it's like I'm shaving it off. I'm weakening its presence in my structure. The core of healing, when love is conscious, active, and present. And I'm not talking about the sappy, sexual, I love you kind of love. I'm talking about a human being created as love is conscious in this moment in their own physiology, or somebody in the space is conscious as present, active love. When that occurs and that which is in the cell is allowed to come forward directly and the two meet, that which is of a disintegrative nature begins to dissolve in the presence of love. Literally, dissipate and disappear. And, we've watched people, and it can take time. We've watched people who had a major issue. Man, this has been going on in my life for years. Every time it comes up, I go into terror and trauma. And here I am 2 weeks later, and this comes up, and gee, it just happened again. And I look and I go, oh, well, so what? Well, why was I so upset before? Because I had dissociated, pained content in my structure that I hadn't worked through. When I resolve it, it's just another event in life. Yeah, nothing to it. But when there's unresolved mind energy of a disintegrative nature held in the cell, that thing, when it's resonated, it screams and yells with its pain and its trauma. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So probably the next layer of thought disorders to uncover would be the ones that, created those feelings in the first place, which, I've uncovered that, it wasn't the feelings that killed me.
Right.
But then there were those feelings, because I know right now what came to me is, okay, obviously I've had a goal since I was a child that I need to get rid of those feelings, so I got to definitely cancel that goal.
Right.
But I'm sure that there were thoughts that created those feelings in that lifetime, and I'm sure, it's probably the same kind of thoughts that I've been having about my missing cat, because
exactly.
I think that was
a stimulus, as I said yesterday. Who'd have thunk it? Your cat leaving gave you the opportunity to go back and deal with some of the deepest, most traumatic things in your childhood, and to uncover what at least your mind was showing you were past life dynamics of great trauma. I mean, and for me, that's just documentation of the thesis that we keep offering to people. While you're holding dis-ease energies, the purpose of life is to kick you in the limitation, to come along and resonate exactly what it is that you need to work through. Bring it to the surface. When it starts to come to the surface, people do one of two things. They deny ownership of it. No, this isn't mine. Harry did it to me. Now that content is used and massaged to make a picture in their brain, a construct called perception about Harry, and see Harry's the problem in my life. Now that I'm taking that content from my cells, that dis-ease energy that's mine, and putting it into massaging it so it looks like and it shows up in my mind as Harry, I'm in an indirect relationship with that. I feel it, but I only see it through my brain's image of Harry, and I think it's actually Harry's. Where resolution comes is I have to come into direct relationship with it. And I do that by, and to me, this is just such a genius piece of information that Yeshua gave us 2,000 years ago. I wish I'd discovered this. I didn't. Cancel the goal. The goal is driving the perception. My picture, my brain's image of Harry collapses in on itself. Now I go to the core thought disorder. And you touched into 2 or 3 major thought disorders yesterday. I can't handle this. I can't live through this. This is going to kill me. That's what I need to literally de-energize, process out the energy of that. And remember, our definition in this work of process is the ability to keep love conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up. Mm-hmm. So if I have a perception about some object of attention, there's a dis-ease in my cell. That's the tail side of the coin. The head side of the coin is, Harry is the problem in my life. how do I get rid of that picture that Harry's the problem in my life? I cancel the goal. Now I'm back in direct relationship with that energy. And if I hold to present love, or somebody's there to support me and hold to present love, I melt that energy away and it's gone. That's forgiveness.
Yeah, and I guess the one distinction I would make for this, what I'm working through presently, is that Harry, there's no Harry. It's me.
Yeah. Well, and we're you know, in the Aramaic language, when they say you have to hold a space or have Rachma for neighbor, in Aramaic, you are your own neighbor.
Okay.
Neighbor's anybody that you think about. So you're holding love present for yourself, and the self, you know, Yeshua talks about two of us involved in our lives. It says in order for you, and we could add to that being, to live, you, non-being self, have to die. There are two of us in there. And the non-being self, he says, has to die. That's what needs to be dissolved or processed through in order to be free of it.
The self that I made up.
Exactly. The one that was made up out of the pain and what was unresolvable and unhandleable and was modeled by your power persons. And as you take each piece of that, you shave off, you weaken another field that emanates from brain cells that holds trauma or pain, and you get to the point where your physiology can't produce trauma and pain because there's none left there. You know, people say, I'm upset because of this. Nobody's ever been upset because of this. People have been upset because in them there's upset, and they can make the upset about any this in the world.
Right.
Or know this in the world. They can make it about anything. The truth is, nobody's ever been upset. Nobody's ever been angry. Nobody's ever been frustrated with anybody else ever in their lives. All there is, I have anger or frustration or upset in my mind, and I pretend, and this is denial, I pretend that it's about that. When I get back to the truth, the reason I'm experiencing it is because it's in me. When I stop telling myself these silly stories about it being everybody else, and I begin to cancel the goals that cause my mind to show me it's about everybody else, that's when I get to process through it. And that's the skill we're working to develop with people and support people in having. And that you did so beautifully yesterday. That was powerful to be part of it.
So I guess I'm still wondering if those feelings that, you know, that I shut off are still, I assume that they still need to be processed through. Like I still need to go through that process of.
You did some pretty big pieces of it. By the way, what's happening around your cat?
Nothing.
No?
No,
So,
I mean, one of the
notice that yesterday you had a big painful story about your cat. You don't have a big painful story today? That's what you've processed through. You've done it. I'm not saying you're finished with all of that, but yesterday, if your cat was mentioned, it was a major trauma and pain. And now, what is it? Well, actually, your response was nothing. I mean, that doesn't mean to say you're happy your cat's gone. Doesn't mean to say you can go, I miss my cat or whatever. But notice that the amount of pain that you've processed through as a result of canceling the goals that you had. That's how forgiveness works.
Yeah, and I recognize that this thinking that I had to know, right? I wasn't going to survive unless I found out, like, what happened to him. That wasn't actually a need, it was a want, and that I could live without knowing, and that what was shown to me so beautifully, like when I received those past life visions, was that when I needed to know about them, like when I tried to do it thinking, I would like to know, I didn't get anything. But when I needed to know, when it was helpful to me to know in order for me to move forward, they just popped in. So that taught me that when I need to know, I will know. And so if I don't know, then that means I don't need to know. And so it's helping me to accept that I don't know.
And you can trust it.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that is an awesome piece of work, young lady.
Yeah, thank you
Millions
so much.
yet unborn will benefit from that. Millions.
Yeah, and I saw how, wow, I never had really made that connection until we were on the phone yesterday, that the connection with my grandmother and her daughter. Now, her daughter didn't just disappear. I mean, she left home at the age of 18, but she never found out where she went. She never spoke to her again, ever. She literally disappeared.
Right.
And same thing with my father. So she was having those same kind of feelings. My father, her brother, was also never, spoke with her again. Now, one of his cousins, and as far as I'm aware, neither of them ever spoke of her. And so I didn't know if there was ever, any search for her or anything like that.
Right.
But,
or any resolution. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, what I did, I think it was about 40 years ago, one of my father's cousins apparently had been looking for her, and he found her out in San Francisco. And so, and then I guess he tried to talk, to ask her to call her mother, because she was, already like 85 at that point. And no, I guess she just refused to contact anyone.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of mind blowing to me. How do you walk away at the age of 18 and just never?
You do that because you're carrying a lot of what seems to be unresolvable pain, and you've projected that pain into your brain's image of that person you're walking away from. And to go back, I can understand it from her side. To go back to communicate with her mother means that, everything that she's been able to hide from herself and not deal with is going to come back in her face. And it's too much. Yeah. So I can understand why she'd say, no, I'm not going to do that. Because, just the thought of opening that communication would move that whole mass of data literally stored in her structure, creating disintegrative energetic patterns in tissue. But to bring that forward and start to look at it, and I have no idea what the history was, whether there was actual damage done to her by mom. Maybe grandma mom was, an abuser. Who knows? Or maybe nothing ever happened that was factual. But if she brought that kind of trauma in, and through her denial project into her brain's image of grandma, like she wouldn't want to ever talk to grandma again.
Yeah.
Or mom again, because, it would mean I'd have to open that bag of worms and start to deal with it. And the reason she ran away was, I can't deal with that. I can't live through that.
Right. Yeah, so that was one of the pieces that I saw, was that when I felt like, because I noticed that my back had started bothering me, and I've had back issues throughout my life, and I at one point I really saw that the back issues were about me not being supported, like no one having my back. And so when I started feeling that this morning, I was like, okay, so it reminded me of what I had uncovered in doing one of the worksheets yesterday, which was that even though there was no one physically present to help me through, what I was feeling, that doesn't mean that I didn't have support, because we always have support, from God. And what I also saw was my whole ancestral line, those who are in spirit now, but they are supporters. I felt that. And I thought, wow, I never really saw that before, that we always have support, even though it may not be physically present for us.
Right. It's invisible, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, I just want to thank you so much for helping me. I'm sure there's, there's more.
What a great piece of work. Actually, I'm going to talk to Jeannie about maybe we can put these two, yesterday and today's conversations, together in one audio track, and we'll put it on as one of the special shows, because it's such, from start to finish, such a profound piece of work that is instructive to everybody. It's just like, so nice work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, and deserving, as Dr. Tim would say, and it's exactly what we're here for. So,
I'm glad I called.
Sweet. Well, anything else on your mind for today, young lady?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, you are in my dialer to get in touch with you. We've been running around doing errands this morning and had a busy afternoon yesterday, but you're in my dialer, and I'll get back to you and chat about the Avison.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Blessings. Lots of love,
Blessings.
and any support you can be. You know where we are.
Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. So I could just, for me personally, the state that I'm in right now, I could just be quiet for the rest of the show and just breathe and just be with this energy of sweetness and delight that's come out of this process from your work, Alan. Thank you. And I won't do that because it'd be a pretty boring show, but that's kind of where the energy moving in me, for me, is with this process work that you've done. So thank you for that. It's pretty awesome. And Miss Jeannie, before I go to the next chapter in the book, which is the has-been, is there anybody else out there with a hand up in the phone queue or anything in the chat room?
There is not. A hand just went up. Hold on a second.
Well, let's go
Area
for it.
code 610, I believe. This is Susan. Welcome.
Hey, so between Ellen and me, we are Pennsylvania dominating today.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
So I want to give you an update and ask a question.
Okay.
The update is that my grandboy is doing much better. He is
Sweet.
Calling once or twice a day, both to his mother and me. They have him on, and these are sort of partially questions. They have pronged program. One is to deal with mental health issues, and one is to deal with addiction. Their first, when they met him and screened him, they realized his anxiety is so through the roof that they have to address the anxiety first.
Dual diagnosis,
They diagnosed him, whether permanently or temporarily, with ADHD, and I've done some research, and the research I've done is very minimal, but what they say is that he needs medication for that, and that he may always need it. Now, I'm suspending my judgment on that, but he has slowed down a great deal. He has gotten his healthy mind back insofar as he's not psychotic at all anymore.
Right.
He remembers some of what he went through, and he's saying, wow, what I said to my advisor and my counselor, and he ruined a friendship, and he feels very badly about that, but he's going to group sessions. They have outings. This is in California. It's a small group of young people who are in this program. He's forming friendships and going places and doing things, plus doing 1 or 2 support groups a day, seeing a counselor every day, eating well, and he was nearly anorexic.
Nice.
So, but what I'm asking is, he is on very multiple heavy medications, and their goal is to get him off as much of that as possible.
Right.
And then do a holistic healing type of model. It's as if they've combined, crisis intervention, traditional medicine with functional medicine, which I think is
perfect.
called for here.
treatment is often, if you can't slow somebody down enough to talk to them, treatment's really required. And then to add the healing piece, to me, that's what I advocate for, is every physician who does treatment without healing really is in malpractice. And everybody who does, healing without treatment, it can lead to more trauma and problems. When you put the two together, you're rocking, you're moving forward. So, and it sounds like they've got the best of both worlds. They're right at his fingertips. That's awesome. And my take on ADHD, what is ADHD? I look here, I look here, I look here, I pay attention here, I pay attention there, I look, oop, doop, 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 doop. What does that come from? What I've seen is that if people can begin to trust, they don't have to keep looking out for the next attack.
I believe that's perfect.
They grow up in an environment where, oh my God, I can't take my eyes off the door. I can't take my eyes off the kitchen. Oh, I've got to watch. I got eyes in the back of my head. Then of course they're going to be attention deficit. They can't spend much time paying attention here. If as a child, especially, they got whacked in the head or they got attacked or whatever it was that happened. When they can start to trust their environment and they're in a safe environment, then they can start to, I don't have to keep my mind on rush just to survive and, have eyes in the back of my head. I can just sit here and breathe and enjoy, reading this book or whatever.
That's fabulous. That sounds so right for him. One of the things I saw on the internet was that the brain needs glucose, which sounds like sugar. And
that's what fuels the cell. Sugar is the fuel that every cell uses. The problem is, sugar is a poison if it's pure sugar, but the cell doesn't just use sugar. It has complementary molecules, calcium and all kinds of other things that make it usable. When you just feed it the sugar, it's kind of like with a gasoline engine. I go and start the engine. If I go in and I put pure gasoline into the carburetor, my engine will stall and it will not run. I need air. I need a proper mixture. If it's not mixed properly, you've seen a car go down the road where there wasn't a proper mixture and it's blowing out all this black, ugly smoke. That's because the thing's trying to run on straight gasoline and it clogs up. It messes it up. If the cell tries to run on straight sugar, it's the same thing. It's putting out all that cloudy, black, ugly smoke into the body. Similar type of situations happening. It needs a proper mixture. So, in the fruit, there's sugar, but there's also all the nutrients that are needed in order for my cell to properly metabolize the sugar and use it properly.
Well, that answers the question.
Glucose is required.
Okay, great.
But glucose with accompanying, that's why whole foods, when we start taking out all the nutrients, the food becomes a poison. We could say, when the car is balanced and there's a proper mix of airflow and all of that, the exhaust is as clean as exhaust can be. The car will run smoothly. The power level will be phenomenal. But if I start blowing that off, all I've got is this toxic spew. The car sputters and runs and stalls. It's toxic because it's not in proper balance.
Is there anything in the way of, I'm picturing that he may be on medications for the rest of his life, and I'm hoping not, but is there anything in the way of supplements that could substitute for those? Not that I'll have a say in it at this point. It's just for my own information to have him. If he were eating a healthy whole foods diet, would that be enough with healing tools and things to heal him? Or I think what I got from these articles I read was that this was a psychiatrist in the medical model who was saying, no, these people need pills for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Well, my take is, I've never, somebody's got a headache. I have never met a person yet whose body lacks aspirin. But if you put an aspirin in the body of someone who's got a headache, the pain will go away.
Yeah.
Do they need something that their body has never had in it in their lives in order to stay away from headaches? No, they need to deal with what's causing, what the toxic energy is that's causing their headaches. And if you need I've said this to people, you've probably heard me on the show, if you've got a headache, take that as information and inspiration to do some work to get rid of the toxic energies. And then if you need to take, and actually white willow bark is much better than aspirin because it has nutrients with it. It's not just pure acetylsalicylic acid that is a toxin to the brain or to the body and tends to destroy the stomach lining. White willow bark, take some. It doesn't mean you have to suffer through your pain just because you're white willow bark. Yeah, that's where they got aspirin from, but you can patent that, and they become, So ultimately, can everything that the structure does not need, that it's never been short of, can you get rid of it ultimately? Yes, absolutely. I don't care what it is. I don't care what the chemical is. Because there's, they talk about chemical imbalances in the brain. Nobody's ever proved that crap. That's just a way to sell drugs. But symptomatically, if it improves, great. And then, again, treatment, and then do the work. And ultimately, I do not believe there's anybody that needs to be on any medication for anything if they correct what's off base to begin with. Now, that's my naturopathic approach. I know that there are people who wouldn't agree with me, but that's okay.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's good. So that was my question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hold the space.
Jacob, thank you.
And it looks
He's
as if
going to be there. Yeah.
He's going to be there.
Anywhere from 30 to 90 days, and it looks as if he's willing to do that. And it may need to take that long. Yeah.
Well, I hold a space that with that kind of holistic approach, if he's there for that 90 days, and then if he's coming home to you, that you'll enhance his ability to realize he's in a safe space and get rid of the aberrant brain chemistry that has him having to dart his eyes around the room and take care of himself and move into deeper and sweeter spaces within his own physiology.
That's wonderful. I'm hoping so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
It'll happen.
Well, I'm hoping that whatever work we were going to try to do, it just was too soon, that he'll be able to come on board whenever that is. And I'm not sure, but anyway, I'd love to think that that's one of the step-down programs would be to be with Michael Ryce and Tim Hayes on the radio.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And my friend Jenna she's gotten my Avicen back. We brought it back for Jacob. He used it a couple of times and liked it. He said it helped him calm down, but he didn't stay with us long enough. That's exactly what it does.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, under the FDA laws, it's approved, and you can make medical claims for it because it's an approved medical device by the FDA. And there are two different claims you can make in the United States for that device. One is that it produces relaxation. That's a medical claim that can be made for the Avicen. The other is that it rids the body of pain. So there are two applications there. So yes, he would have been experiencing some of that relaxation. And when blood vessels tighten, we've got several metaphors in our culture for him. He's a lockjaw person. He's a tight ass. What does that mean? That literally means his blood vessels are locked up. The muscle fibers at the head of each of the 60 billion capillaries in the structure are locked up. And when they're locked up, it inhibits blood flow, which means oxygen's inhibited. And if there's a 5% lack of oxygen to a cell, there's excruciating pain in the cell. The cell starts to scream out and says, hey, I need oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you put your hand in that device, what happens is the warming of the blood when that warm blood starts to flow over the muscle fibers that are locking up the circulation, the muscle fibers relax. Blood flow starts to happen. Pain goes away. It's like, and I mean excruciating pain. I know one woman who she was post-polio, and with her post-polio, she's 78 years of age. She had over a period of several years 3 different joint replacements. And her shoulder was in such pain when we first talked about this that she could not pick up a glass of water and drink it without excruciating pain. And she went to her doctor, and her doctor did x-rays on her shoulder and said, it's bone on bone. We're going to have to replace that joint. She used the Avicen for 12 weeks, and she packed the boxes for her to move. She was in the process of moving. She packed boxes with her own arms, loaded them in the car, drove them to her new home, and unloaded them in the car. This is a woman who couldn't pick up a glass of water and was told she needed a joint replacement. When you get oxygen into tissue, tissue goes, oh, thank God, I've been screaming for that for too long. So that's he obviously was getting the relaxation effect. Now, Herbert Benson's work, the relaxation was quite the same thing. His meditation technique was teaching people how to soften, at the head. We've got about 60 billion capillaries. They're about the 10th the thickness of a hair. And if those 60 billion capillaries, because we are uptight, those muscle fibers that there's a thing called a precapillary orifice at the head of 60 billion capillaries. They're muscle fibers that, just like in your throat, you can close your throat, you can open it. Well, those muscle fibers open and close. That's the orifice. And when people live in an uptight world, those muscle fibers are tight, the capillary head's closed. Blood doesn't get into that capillary. When you warm the blood flowing over those muscles relax and soften, and the capillary head opens. Now you've got blood flow in places where it wasn't before. That's how it works. I mean, it when you first look at it, for anybody who's listening, this device is about the size of a bread box, and you put your hand in it. And people say, well, how could putting my hand in that machine affect my feet? How could it affect my lungs? Well, blood moves all over the body, and in the palm of the hand, there's a heat exchanger, and the basic thing that the device is doing is getting the heat exchanger right up against heat. It creates a vacuum to open the flow of blood into the hand, and when blood leaves the hand and goes into the body, it takes about 3 minutes to move around the body and come back to the hand. 3 minutes, moves around the body, it's back in the hand. You do that 3 times, and literally the whole blood supply through the whole body has its temperature elevated almost 1 degree. That changes everything in the whole structure. That's how it works. It's a whole body treatment, and it's totally non-invasive. And they've got something like 11 million or 12 million treatments that have been done over the last 12, 13 years with no reported side effects, aside from wonderful. I mean, I don't know of any other medical treatment that say, boy, I sure love the side effects of my medical treatment. There isn't one out there. This thing does it. Yeah. I mean, it's most amazing. So keep your hand in it.
Jenna borrowed my machine, and she's got it back, and she said she hadn't been able to bend her middle 2 fingers at all. Now she's bending them almost into a fist. So the machine has gone back to her house for a few more weeks or however long it
Cool.
takes. She's doing physical therapy too, but anyway, her son came over and picked it up and took it over there last night. So
sweet.
I miss it.
Well,
machine, but yeah.
Well, if we went to Europe, like here, the FDA has approved it for relaxation and pain. If you went to Europe, and actually the machine's been given an award. It's approved for fibromyalgia treatment, and fibromyalgia treatment is one of the most difficult pains to deal with. And they actually, I forget the name of it, Ernst and something, some big company that awards technology products. And back 3 years ago, the Avicen got their technology award for fibromyalgia treatment. Now, it's not approved for that here, but it is in Europe. If we were in Europe, we could be saying, yes, well, this can be used to treat the pain of fibromyalgia. And it's amazing. And it's totally non-invasive. I mean, the other big thing that happens, and this is such an important thing for health and longevity, is that you put your hand in it and you go to sleep. The relaxation it's created puts people into qualities of sleep. We actually, we've talked about the Beamer before. You've tried the Beamer out. We have one client that had a Beamer for about 2 years and loved it and heard about the Avicen, so we sent her one. She tested it out. And it took her 2 days to say, I'm getting rid of my Beamer and I'm buying an Avicen. She sold her Beamer and bought an Avicen.
Wow.
Because, and when we talked, she said, yeah, I sleep well. She put her hand in the Avicen the first night. It's like, oh, my God, I've never slept in my life. And it was that much of a difference in 2 days that she decided she couldn't afford both. She got rid of her Beamer and got an Avicen because of the sleep enhancement. And that's
I'm waiting
major
for that to happen.
Well, you got my support on that one, young lady.
Thanks.
For sure. Yeah, cool. Well, that's just awesome to hear that he's out there and he's in cooperation with it. I know that last facility he was in, there wasn't much cooperation. So that's awesome, and we'll keep holding the space and seeing that when he returns to you, he's in a balanced place where he's ready to take his whole healing process to the next level. And
I hope so.
This may be this disease process may be the major gift of his life.
It might be. Yep. So, anyway, thanks, Michael.
I can certainly see personally for me, you've heard me share this before, but my mother had toxemia the last 6 days before I was born, and they gave her Pitocin to try to get me out. And by the time they got me out, they called my father and said, this kid's going to be dead by morning if you don't get here. You're not going to, And that was the gift. That was what motivated me to move into doing this work.
Wow.
That was what put me here, So who knows? Maybe this will be the gift for that young man to take his creativity, from what you've shared. He's got this awesomely creative mind and step into the next level of his healing. And then who knows what he'll do.
Yep. I sure hope so. And he came back from the brink. So this is just great.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you are an awesome influence, and what a great granny to have. What a great orb to have in your influence in your field.
You remembered that.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a cool name to be called as orb. Where did that come from? How did they call you? Come to call you orb?
Jonathan, our boy, is a tremendous name maker-upper. He has nicknames and love names for everybody, and my name was Mullawarbalatha. He called me Mullawarbalatha for years, and it gradually pared itself down to the essence of it, which is Mullawarbalatha. So the orb stayed.
Well, that's cool.
The other one was a bit long.
Yeah. Well, what a cool skill. Now, in the world, and it's interesting because we can take things in constructive directions and destructive, and it's nice to hear you say that he was so masterful at making up love names for people. We have a certain politician floating around who has this skill of making up hate names for everybody that he has contact with that doesn't agree with him. Yeah. So, what a great thing that he's on the love side of it. Sweet.
Oh, it's great, all right, and they're funny names. Yep. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a good bully.
Awesome. And he's doing well with being back and practicing medicine and having things moving in the direction that really supports his purpose.
Absolutely. This seems like a miracle, but he went back after taking another long leave of about a month or two and said, if you want me back, you have to take me on my own terms. And they said, what are your terms? And he said, I don't want you to pile on patients. I don't want to even do patient work at the front line at all. I will put out all the fires that come in. I'll work in the emergency room. I'll work on policy in the administration department. I want to do a lot of operating because that's my forte and I really love it. But I'm such an introvert that being quiet in the operating room and concentrating on putting bodies together is what I love to do. They said, you got it.
Nice.
And so they just gave him everything he wanted. And he comes home every day and says, I had a good day, even if he was totally
awesome.
worn out. Yeah.
And notice, after years of all that trauma, he did some inner work. Think about the work that he did, and then, that forgiveness work that he did, and how he then stepped into another state of being that had him create what he needed.
Yeah.
That's the power of forgiveness I'd offer.
Right. That's true. And, I send him the miracles lesson every morning. And when he wakes up, he goes right on and reads it. And he says, that is the way I start my day, as I read the lesson. And it really sets me right. So,
sweet.
Anyway,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
You are such a good influence, young lady.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Michael. It's all your fault. You started it.
I'm willing. I'm willing to take the blame for that one. And it's your responsibility that you've decided to take responsibility and do the work. And the radio show is going to cut us off. It just told me in my ear that we've got 10 seconds. So thank you for that sharing. It's awesome. And everybody, pass it on. Blessings. Bye-bye.